Before I begin, I would like to define a term you'll be hearing throughout my presentation. STEM, S-T-E-M, is an acronym that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. Fields that drive innovation, fuel the economy, and that shape the future. While these disciplines provide incredible opportunities, not everybody in the STEM workforce has equal access to them. In my talk today, I will be proposing some ways to address this issue and thereby reaffirm higher education's purpose to the public. I want you to imagine two young guys, Larry and Ruben, graduate from college. Both of them were very dedicated to their studies, driven by dreams of better lives. Larry, a white male, graduated with a STEM degree and entered into a competitive STEM field. And he was thriving in his career. Ruben, a Hispanic male, also graduated with a STEM degree. And he also entered into the same competitive field. But his story takes a different turn. Ruben, unfortunately, his wages plateaued, and there really weren't many opportunities for him to advance. This isn't just a story about Ruben. This is a story of countless individuals that graduate with a STEM degree. Okay? And we're going to be talking about what we're going to do about this. But what I want to share with you is this. President Lyndon B. Johnson once said, "Education is the key to opportunity." But opportunity for many has been elusive. So what I want to share with you is that in STEM, what drives innovation is diversity. But unfortunately, that diversity sometimes is not respected. To give you a sense of where this is going, is that wage disparities are found right now consistently by ethnicity, gender, and disability status. The data from my own research is showing me that disparities exist, even though they have a STEM degree, by people of color, women, and adults with disabilities. Even though they have a STEM degree, have to earn a degree one step higher than their white male counterparts just to have comparable wages. Okay? So there's a few other things that I'm finding in my research, and that is that, and so let me go back and just say, why would this be an issue? When we have a situation like this, we need to look internally and ask, what is it that's going on? Some of the research, however, that I've been doing points to me that even though people in the STEM workforce are very talented, sometimes they're missing certain competencies that are essential for a successful career. And so what are we supposed to do with this? We need to reaffirm higher education in its purpose in preparing people for the STEM workforce. And I want to propose to you 3 ways. But before I do that, I want to paint the picture of how this is in the workplace right now. So people like Ruben end up in non-STEM jobs. They transfer over to banking, they sell insurance, they sell real estate. They're in all kinds of positions, okay? 1 in 5 end up teaching in the public schools. Not necessarily STEM, but they're in the public schools. Oh, and some of them, by the way, do enter into the ministry. There aren't many. There's a few of them that do that. Why is this an issue? Well, if you have a degree in mechanical engineering and you're working cleaning office spaces, emptying the trash, or working in the malls, sanitizing the bathroom stalls, like at the end of the day of Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving when everybody and their mother is out there shopping, you can imagine that scenario, okay? The problem is that when you earn an education that's up here and your job simply requires you an education that's down here, That type of misalignment leads to a couple of things. Number one, you undermine the value of your education. And second, you end up with very low wages. How serious is this problem? Well, among people of color, women, and adults with disabilities with the STEM degrees, 2/3 end up in non-STEM careers. Okay? So there are three things that I want to propose that we need to consider for higher education to integrate into the STEM programs. Let me talk about the first one, social capital. It is not enough for our students to graduate knowing how to write the resume, the cover letter, fill out the application, and go to the interview. We need to teach them how to create and maintain a professional network, one that if someday they get unemployed, they know how to tap into that network to get the next job. Second, we need to teach them how to negotiate, especially when the employer is offering the job and offering this certain level of pay. They need to know, is that the amount of pay I should expect, commensurate with my background and what the industry is paying? And if it's not, if it's lower, they need to be able to advocate for higher wages. And that's going to be true even after they start their job. If there's opportunities being given to people at the work site that they're not getting, they need to be able to step up and advocate for this. So this is the first set of competencies, is social capital. Imagine if our students graduated with this type of social capital and they met either bias or discrimination in the workplace. They would be more ready to deal with that. The second set of competencies that I'm recommending for higher education to consider for STEM programs is English language proficiency. STEM occupations actually require higher levels of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Now, what I'm about to tell you, you may not want to hear. You may not like, but I'm drawing from the literature, from the research on the relationship between language skills and employability. If English is not your native language, or you do not speak English clearly, you need to work on it while you're with us here in higher education. Because the employer, in other words, the people that interview you, may have bias or discriminate against you simply for the way that you sound. The third area that I want higher ed to consider is purposeful life planning. In this situation, I love it when I'm able to talk to my students that are graduating, and I'll ask them, so now that you're finishing up, what are your goals? What are you going to do? And they always tell me two things. They always talk about their career, and they always talk about that in 5 years they will retire because they're going to make a lot of money. Okay? I can tell you that having a little bit of experience under my belt and a little gray hair, there is more to life than career and financial goals. Now, don't get me wrong. As parents, we want our children to graduate and get into the job of their choice and make enough money where they don't have to come home and live on the sofa. All right? But the reality is there's more to life than money and career. And this includes, for example, health goals, goals that relate to your relationships, giving back to the community goals. These are goals and others that define a purposeful life, a life worth living. So social capital, English language proficiency, and purposeful life planning. These are essential today in today's competitive global workforce. Now, please stay with me on these last 2 points. If you think that these competencies are really only good for people of color, women, and adults with disabilities, and not for white males, you would be wrong. The reason why white males also need this type of training is due to the sheer magnitude of those that are earning STEM degrees and ending up in the non-STEM careers. To put this in perspective, in 2025, not too long ago, at the Super Bowl, there were 66,000 attendees. Now, just imagine that 42,000 of them just leave the stadium before the game even begins. That's what's in my data. White males represent the largest proportion of those that earn STEM degrees. And so they also represent the largest proportion of those that are in the STEM workforce. But they also represent the largest proportion that end up in non-STEM jobs. The second thing that I want to point out to you and share with you is that I want to make a call to action to my academic colleagues, particularly those that are teaching in the STEM programs. Integrating these three areas of competencies into STEM programs will take effort and expertise. Please do not do this alone. Please go and talk to your colleagues that are in the humanities. They can help you. This includes faculty in the English department, sociology, psychology, and other areas of the liberal arts. They're going to have a foundational knowledge of these competencies and can help you. Now, I want to just say this, that this call to action is not just for academic faculty. It's also a call to employers, to policymakers, parents, students. They all have a role. And together, we can close these wage gaps. We can dismantle these barriers. We can create a STEM workforce that truly represents the diversity of our society. The equation for success is simple, but profound. The right thoughts, plus the right people, in the right environment, at the right time, for the right reasons, equals the right results. Let's go back to Ruben. What if his experience had been different? What if higher education had trained him with the skills, the tools, given him the confidence and the connections to thrive alongside Larry? What if we created a learning environment where all students, regardless of their background, graduated ready for career success in the STEM workforce? As President Lyndon B. Johnson said, education is the key to opportunity. That's the vision I want you to take. A world where higher education truly reaffirms its purpose to the public, opening doors to achievement, to fulfillment for everyone. Thank you.